What if one of the most wholesome shows on television was hiding some genuinely strange stories just beneath the surface? An actor held contractually hostage by Disney for 9 months after being fired, a stolen jacket replaced and never questioned, a slasher episode that almost never aired, and a character name invented during a traffic jam while staring at a freeway sign. Boy Meets World looked like a simple coming-of-age sitcom about a kid from Philadelphia growing up with good friends and a wise teacher. But the story behind the story was considerably stranger than anything that happened at John Adams High School. Here are 10 weird facts about Boy Meets World, 1993 you didn't know. Fact 10. Will Friedle almost lost the role because of height. When Boy Meets World was casting in 1993, Will Friedle was not the first choice for Eric Matthews. He had auditioned for the role and done well. But on the day he was scheduled to come back for callbacks, he got sick and couldn't make it to the studio. The producers couldn't wait indefinitely, so they moved forward with another actor who filmed the entire pilot episode as Corey's older brother. It looked like Friedle had missed his window entirely. The problem with the replacement surfaced immediately when the producers watched the footage back. The actor they had cast was shorter than Ben Savage, who played Corey, and it looked wrong on screen in a way that could not be fixed in post. A younger brother who physically towers over his older sibling creates a visual confusion that audiences would notice and never quite let go of. The height discrepancy was enough to make the whole thing feel off in a way that undermined the dynamic before it even had a chance to develop. By the time Friedle had recovered and was available again, the producers had already decided to recast the part. They brought him in, compared his height to Savage's, and the visual problem solved itself. Friedle was noticeably taller, the relationship read correctly on camera, and he was given the role. All the pilot footage with the original actor was scrapped, and the scenes were reshot. Among the weird facts about Boy Meets World 1993, this one lives at the intersection of bad luck and fortunate timing. If the first actor had been a few inches taller, or if Friedle had never gotten sick and gone to his original callback, the outcome might have been completely different. Instead, an illness and a height measurement together produced one of the most beloved characters in the show's 7-season run. What Friedle made of the opportunity from there is its own story. Eric Matthews started as the straightforward older brother and evolved over 7 seasons into one of the most unpredictable and memorable comedic characters on the network. None of it would have happened if the other actor had simply been taller. Before moving ahead, take a quick second to subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for the next story. Fact 9. 3 different actresses played Topanga. Before the role was settled, the character of Topanga, Lawrence went through an unusually brutal casting process before Danielle Fishel landed the part that would define her career. The first actress hired for the role was Bonnie Morgan, who arrived on set, shot scenes for a full day, and was then fired at the end of that same day. The reason given to her was direct and painful. The producers told her she was not pretty enough for the role. For a child actor just starting out in the industry, that kind of feedback is not easily absorbed or forgotten. After Morgan was let go, the producers brought in Mara Sokoloff, who would later become well known for her work on The Practice, to take over the character. Sokoloff filmed her version of Topanga and seemed like she might be the final answer. But the producers still were not satisfied with what they were seeing from the character as a whole. Something about the energy, the chemistry, or the fit with the rest of the cast was not clicking the way they needed it to. Danielle Fishel came in for her audition after both previous actresses had already been hired and let go, which means she was auditioning for a role that 2 other people had already held. Among the weird facts about Boy Meets World 1993, this casting history reframes how settled the show's most iconic relationship actually was at the beginning. Fischel had chemistry with Savage, the right quality of quirky seriousness, and the ability to hold her own in the ensemble. The producers cast her and stopped looking. What is easy to forget now, after 7 seasons and a reunion series and decades of fan affection for the Cory and Topanga pairing, is how close the character came to being someone else entirely. 2 actresses were hired before Fischel ever auditioned. Either of them could have developed the role into something different, and the show's central relationship could have landed very differently with audiences. Fischel was never the first choice. She was not even the second. She was the 3rd actress to hold that role, and the one who made it feel like there had never been any other possibility. Fact 8. Topanga was named during a traffic jam. The name Topanga Lawrence is so distinctive that it is hard to imagine the character being called anything else. It fits her perfectly. The kind of name that suggests someone simultaneously eccentric and grounded, different from everyone around her, but completely at ease with that difference. Most viewers probably assumed it came out of a careful creative process. The actual origin is considerably more casual than that. Our creator Michael Jacobs has told the story multiple times over the years. He was stuck in Los Angeles traffic, moving slowly through one of the city's more frustrating stretches of freeway when his phone rang. Someone from the production team was calling to ask what the quirky, free-spirited girl character should be named. They needed an answer. Jacobs looked out the window for inspiration and saw a freeway sign for Topanga Canyon, one of the well-known areas in the Santa Monica Mountains above Malibu. He said the name out loud. The person on the other end of the phone loved it immediately. That was the entire process. Among the weird facts about Boy Meets World 1993, this one contains the most unsettling alternate version. Jacobs has admitted that if he had been in a different part of Los Angeles traffic at that moment, the character might have been named Canoga instead, after Canoga Park in the San Fernando Valley, Canoga Lawrence, Cory, and Canoga. The reunion series Girl Meets World would have been built around a character named Canoga. The entire cultural footprint of that name across 3 decades of television would have been attached to something that lands entirely differently in the ear. None of that happened because of where a car happened to be sitting on a Los Angeles freeway on a particular afternoon. The name that became iconic came from a sign that Jacobs would not have seen if traffic had been moving normally that day. Fact 7. Ryder Strong stole the jacket and lost it. Shawn Hunter's brown leather jacket became one of the most recognizable pieces of wardrobe on Boy Meets World. It was part of how the character read on screen, of the slightly worn, effortlessly cool exterior that matched Shawn's position as the friend who had seen more of real life than anyone around him. The jacket was Disney property, kept in the wardrobe department and used season after season. Ryder Strong liked it enough to take it home without asking anyone's permission. Strong has talked about this in interviews without attempting to soften the description. He took the jacket, brought it to New York City while traveling, and wore it around the city. The plan was to return it before anyone on the production noticed it was missing. Then someone broke into his car while he was in New York and stole it along with other belongings. The jacket that belonged to Disney was gone, and Strong had to figure out what to do about that without explaining what had happened. Among the weird facts about Boy Meets World 1993, this one has the most straightforwardly human panic at its center. Strong went out and found a replacement jacket that matched the original as closely as he could manage, then quietly reintroduced it into the wardrobe rotation and said nothing. Nobody on the production appeared to notice the switch, or if they did, no one raised it with him directly. The jacket that Shawn Hunter wore for the remainder of the series was not the original. What makes this genuinely strange is the continuity implication. Fans who tracked the visual consistency of the show were watching a replacement jacket for an unknown portion of its remaining episodes without any awareness that the original had been stolen from a car in New York City and quietly substituted. Strong managed to replace Disney property with a personal purchase, integrate it back into production, and carry that secret through the rest of the series without incident. That requires a specific kind of nerve that the story does not typically credit him with when it gets told. Fact 6. Minkus disappeared. Because of Steve Urkel. Stewart. Minkus appeared throughout Boy Meets World's first season as the nerdy, academically competitive character who shared classroom scenes with Corey and provided a specific kind of comedic friction with the main group. He was a recurring presence who had been part of the show from the beginning. Then Season 2 started, and he was simply gone, with no explanation offered to the audience and no reference to where he had gone. The reason for his disappearance had nothing to do with the actor's performance or with the character failing to connect with viewers. It was entirely about another show. Family Matters was airing on the same TGIF lineup on ABC, and Steve Urkel had become one of the biggest characters in network television. Network executives and producers grew concerned that having two prominent nerdy characters on the same Friday night lineup was redundant and might create confusion or split the audience's attention between the two shows. Among the weird facts about Boy Meets World 1993, this one is the most clearly driven by competitive anxiety rather than any creative logic. Lee Norris, who played Minkus, was effectively removed from the show because another network comedy had already claimed a similar character type and done it at a scale that made any comparison feel like imitation. The decision was made to differentiate the show by removing the overlap entirely. Minkus did not return until the series finale years later, when he appeared briefly and acknowledged that he had spent all that time in the other part of the school. The joke was the show's way of nodding to the audience about the disappearance, wrapping the whole situation in a meta-reference that worked precisely because viewers had noticed the absence for seasons. The moment landed because the show was self-aware enough to admit what had happened without explaining why. Norris appeared, delivered the line, and the audience laughed in recognition. A character had been quietly removed for competitive network reasons, and the only acknowledgement it ever received was a single joke 7 years later. Fact 5. The slasher episode Almost Didn't Air Boy Meets World spent most of its run as a wholesome family sitcom built around life lessons, friendships, and the kind of coming-of-age moments that parents and children could watch together without any tension. That reputation made the 5th season episode, And Then There Was Sean, a genuine surprise for everyone involved, including the network executives who saw early footage and became seriously alarmed about what they were looking at. The episode was a direct homage to late 1990s slasher films, specifically Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer, with a masked killer hunting the main characters through an empty school building at night. Director Jeff McCracken shot it like an actual horror film rather than a sitcom, using dramatic low lighting, unconventional camera angles, and the kind of sustained tension that the show had never attempted in any previous episode. It looked and felt genuinely different from anything that had aired under the Boy Meets World title before. When ABC executives reviewed the footage, the concern was immediate and real. Among the weird facts about Boy Meets World 1993, this is the closest the show ever came to having a completed episode pulled before broadcast. The worry was that the horror elements were too intense for the family audience the show had built, and that younger viewers would be frightened in a way that the parents watching alongside them had not been warned about. McCracken had to go back to the network and argue for the episode. His position was that the audience was smart enough to recognize parody, that the scary elements were deliberately heightened beyond realism, and that the departure from the show's usual tone was precisely what made the episode work. He made his case, and the network agreed to air it with minimal changes. The episode became one of the most discussed installments in the show's entire run. Fans who had grown up with it consistently rank it as a highlight, and its willingness to step completely outside what Boy Meets World was supposed to be is exactly what has kept it memorable for decades. It almost did not happen. The fact that it did changed how people talked about what the show was capable of. Fact 4. The cast believed. William Daniels was British. William Daniels played Mr. Feeney for 7 seasons with a refined, precisely articulated way of speaking that carried authority in every scene he appeared in. He was convincing as the kind of educator who had clearly spent decades cultivating a very specific presentation of himself. The young cast members working with him every day were so convinced by that presentation that for a significant period of the show's early years, they genuinely believed he was British. Ben Savage, Danielle Fishel, and Ryder Strong have all mentioned in interviews that they operated under this assumption without ever directly questioning it. Daniels spoke in a way that sounded formal and slightly elevated compared to the California speech patterns they were accustomed to, and a British origin seemed like the most logical explanation. They discussed it among themselves when he was not around, treating it as a shared piece of knowledge that they had simply absorbed from their time on set. Daniels was born in Brooklyn, New York. The accent and diction that struck the cast as British developed when he was 15 years old and took a theater role that required him to adopt a New England dialect. He liked how it sounded and kept it. Over the years, it became simply how he spoke, not a performance he was maintaining, but a genuine shift in his natural way of talking that had occurred decades before Boy Meets World ever went into production. Among the weird facts about Boy Meets World 1993, this one is the most quietly entertaining because of what it says about how completely Daniels had absorbed his own affectation. The kids working with him every day for years concluded he must be from another country because nothing else seemed to explain it. When they eventually found out the truth, the reaction was a combination of surprise and embarrassment at having held the assumption for as long as they had. Daniels found the whole thing genuinely amusing. The idea that a man from Brooklyn had fooled a group of young California actors into believing he was English simply by speaking precisely and maintaining a particular vocal quality he had picked up as a teenager struck him as a perfectly reasonable outcome of the situation. Fact 3. Disney held Anthony Tyler Quinn hostage for 9 months. Anthony Tyler Quinn's path to Boy Meets World started with an audition for the wrong role. He came in to read for Alan Matthews, Corey's father, a part that ultimately went to William Russ. Quinn performed well enough that the producers were impressed, but the problem was visible the moment he walked in. He was far too young to convincingly play the father of a teenager. The role required someone who looked like he could plausibly have a 13-year-old child, and Quinn simply was not there yet. The producers kept him in mind anyway, and when Season 2 introduced Jonathan Turner, the young cool English teacher who would become a mentor to Sean, they brought Quinn back in immediately. His age, which had been the wrong fit for Alan Matthews, was exactly right for Mr. Turner. He landed the part and became a fan favorite across several seasons before his character was written out with a motorcycle accident storyline. What happened after the exit is where things became genuinely difficult. Quinn assumed that being written off the show meant he was free to pursue other opportunities. Instead, Disney informed him that his contract remained active. Even though the production no longer wanted him for Boy Meets World, he was legally bound to the company and could not audition for or accept work on other shows without their permission. Among the weird facts about Boy Meets World 1993, this 9-month contractual hold is the most clearly frustrating story in the show's history. Quinn has described the experience as being held hostage, which is not an exaggeration for what it felt like to watch potential opportunities pass while being unable to act on them through no fault of his own. He had not done anything wrong. The show simply had no more use for his character. By the time Disney released him, the momentum he had built from a prominent recurring role on a popular network sitcom had largely dissipated. The industry had moved on in the way that industries move on quickly, and the window that had been open when he left the show was considerably narrower when he was finally allowed to approach it. A contractual hold that served no creative purpose cost him a year he could not get back. Fact 2. The final classroom scene was filmed once and never repeated. The series finale of Boy Meets World ends with Corey, Topanga, Sean, and Eric saying goodbye to Mr. Afeni in his classroom for the last time. The scene is one of the most genuinely emotional moments in the show's entire run, and it carries a quality of rawness that makes it feel different from anything else in the episode around it. The reason for that quality is straightforward. The scene was filmed once. Nobody on set was capable of doing it again. By the final day of shooting, the cast had been working together for 7 years. They had grown from children into adults on the same set, surrounded by the same people, shaped in real ways by the experience of making the show together. When the cameras rolled for that last classroom scene, the emotions in the room were not manufactured for performance. Danielle Fishel has said plainly that she could not stop crying and that she was not acting. The grief was real and immediate. I tied to the knowledge that this particular chapter of her life was ending in front of a camera. William Daniels, who had watched these young actors grow up across 7 seasons, was working to hold his own composure while delivering his final lines. The rest of the cast was in similar states. The directors watched the first take and understood within minutes that they were not going to get a better version of what they had just filmed, because the emotional reality of the moment could not be reset and repeated without losing exactly what made it work. Among the weird facts about Boy Meets World 1993, this one is the least strange and the most human. It is simply a group of people at the end of something real, caught on camera without the protection of a second take. The shaky voices, the visible tears, and the long pauses between lines were all there because the production made the only choice available to them and kept the first take. The result is a final scene that has been discussed and revisited by fans for over 2 decades because it does not feel like television. It feels like something that actually happened to people, which is precisely what it was. Fact 1. The creator put his own son in the series finale. Throughout Boy Meets World's 6th season, baby Joshua Matthews was played by whichever infant actor was available for filming on any given day. This is standard practice for shows featuring young babies who can only work for limited hours, have unpredictable moods, and cannot be expected to perform reliably on a schedule. Where productions keep multiple infants on standby and rotate between them depending on the needs of any particular day. When it came time to film the series finale, the baby actor scheduled for the Joshua scenes would not stop talking and making noise during takes. The emotional tone the show needed for its final episode required quiet, and the child was not providing it. Time was running short, and the pressure of finishing the last episode of a 7-year series was sitting on everyone involved. Creator Michael Jacobs made a decision that had nothing to do with conventional casting. He called his wife and asked her to bring their son Daniel to the studio immediately. Daniel was close enough in age to the character of Joshua that he could pass on screen without any visible inconsistency. He arrived, was dressed in Joshua's costume, and was placed into the remaining scenes that still needed to be filmed. Unlike the previous baby, he was calm and quiet. The crew was able to finish the finale without further disruption. Among the weird facts about Boy Meets World 1993, this one carries the most unexpected warmth. The final scenes of a show built entirely around family were completed using the creator's actual child. Michael Jacobs did not plan it that way and would not have chosen it under ordinary circumstances. But the circumstances were not ordinary, and he solved the problem with the resources immediately available to him. If you watch the Boy Meets World series finale, the baby appearing in those final moments is not the same actor who played Joshua in earlier episodes. He is Daniel Jacobs, the creator's son, present at the end of something his father spent 7 years building. He will never remember being there. The footage exists regardless. Boy Meets World spent 7 seasons teaching its audience that growing up meant facing things you did not expect and coming through them anyway. The stories behind the show turned out to follow the same rule. Which of these facts surprised you most? Tell us in the comments below. And if you want more stories like this, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss one.